it's important to make sure that they aren't going to be coerced to have an abortion because of the fact that they are in a difficult situation. Because most women who have an abortion already are doing it because of financial lack. And what they need is resources. They need support. They need aid, not the termination of their children, which is a decision that they can never come back from.
That was pro-life speaker Christina Bennett testifying this week as the only pro-life witness during a virtual subcommittee hearing on abortion funding. Held on the solemnity of the Immaculate Conception this week, House Democrats called the hearing, saying it's time to repeal the Hyde Amendment. That amendment, which has long enjoyed bipartisan support for over 40 years, prevents the taxpayer funding of abortion. Bennett was the only witness to counter the pro-abortion talking points from the three other women on the panel. And for this week's Pro-Life Focus, we're joined now on Skype with pro-life speaker and communications director at the Family Institute of Connecticut, Christina Bennett. Christina, welcome back, and thank you for your pro-life testimony this week. During the congressional hearing, House Democrats repeatedly claimed the Hyde Amendment is discriminatory and racist. What's your response?
Well, thank you, first of all, for having me back on, Catherine. And my response is that it's ridiculous to think that an amendment that has helped save over 2.4 million lives, many of them primarily African American, Black, Latino, that is racist. It's just insane how they've twisted this entire narrative to think that this is a negative thing. People are fighting for Black lives. People are fighting for Black women and Latino women to be able to have a prosperous life and to bear their children, to have a legacy, to take care of their offspring. That's what we should all want. We should all want there to be a decrease in abortions, and that's what Hyde helps to do.
And during the hearing, Christina, you said it's actually the abortion industry that's rooted in racism. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. I pointed out that all across the country, Planned Parenthood is in a moment of reckoning where they are finally admitting that they have racist roots. We saw that in New York, where the Planned Parenthood in Manhattan, they removed Margaret Sanger's name from their building because they want to distance themselves from her legacy, which includes the Negro Project and targeting the Black community. In addition, just recently, a Planned Parenthood in Pennsylvania, they fired one of their main leaders, and they wrote an open letter in which they admitted that some of them knew going into the organization that they had roots of white supremacy, but they thought they would be able to change it. And so we are seeing all across the country, different Planned Parenthood groups admit that they have not only a racist history, but right now, people that are in key positions are racist and that they're hurting employees and also clients.
Christina, this week's House subcommittee hearing had 4 panelists. 3 were pro-abortion advocates. You were the only pro-life witness. What was that experience like, and were you intimidated at all?
I was anxious going into it. I will admit that, because the other witnesses, they have a lot of different experiences that I've never had to. Felt a little bit like a David and Goliath kind of a situation. But I just prayed a lot, and I had a lot of people praying for me. And so I had confidence that God chose me.
That's beautiful. Christina, how do you respond to claims that the Hyde Amendment holds back women from being empowered and that abortions will help them to succeed?
I think that we have heard this lie for so long that it's actually sad that we're still believing it. I grew up with this lie. I grew up hearing this in high school and in college, that women need abortion to be more successful. It's not true. One of the studies that I mentioned in my written testimony was a study which talks about 7 million women that were Medicaid eligible, and they looked at their history and they realized that the women who had an abortion, that it just led them to have more abortions. So if you have one abortion, that you're at a risk to have multiple abortions. And so we can see that this is just a Band-Aid. It doesn't cause women to be more successful. It doesn't bring forth liberation or freedom or all the different things that pro-abortion advocates promise. And it's exactly the opposite. In fact, so many women are suffering with pain, with regret, with shame. That's why they go to organizations like Rachel's Vineyard. That's why they go to groups like Support After Abortion for counsel and for help. And sometimes that's even 10, 20 years after, because it's taken them a long time to be able to deal with the pain. And that's just emotional stuff. That's not even touching on the physical things like botched abortions and the different ways that women suffer. So it's a complete lie. And we have to wake up and we have to just speak the truth, because this industry is hurting millions of women and families.
Well, thank you for speaking the truth. Christina Bennett with the Family Institute of Connecticut. Thank you.
You're welcome.